Hi, my name is Rachelle Wunderink. I'm an interdisciplinary artist from Niagara Falls, Canada. I grew up in Niagara-on-the-Lake, which is very close by to Niagara Falls, but I spent almost 13 years abroad living away from Canada in several different countries, including Taiwan, Morocco, Venezuela, and the US as well. I went to a small liberal arts college in Michigan called Calvin College. It's in Grand Rapids for my BFA. And I recently received an MFA from York University, which is north part of Toronto. So if I think of my work as a greater body of work, I am really focused on the implication of gender and how gender plays out in different scenarios. So for this specific show, I'm really focused on the aftermath of sexual assault, but my more recent body of work, I'm more focused on invisible labor, matrescence, which is the loss of identity when becoming a mother, as well as care work and how care work plays into your everyday life. On top of that, a lot of my work is really focused on the idea of abstraction, repetition, and destruction. And so I often am looking at images that I either find or create myself. And within the process of my work, I often abstract them in some way, tear them apart and put them back together, or cut them up in a different way. So it's often I'm asking the viewer to view the work as on face value, it looks beautiful or interesting or intriguing aesthetically, but then once you zoom into the piece, you really start focusing on there's a lot going on here that I may have not necessarily seen on first glance. So I'm here at IA&A Hillyer with my exhibition, Your Comfort, My Silence. The exhibition is really focused on the idea that society censors rather than confronts stories of rape and harassment. So as you walk through the exhibition, you're going to be met with two main installations. The first one on the back of the wall here, there's two walls that are filled with redacted transcripts that that recount 6 different stories of harassment to rape that I encountered throughout my 20s. These stories that were quite vulnerable for me to say on camera, and therefore quite a vulnerable piece for me to send the transcripts off to 25 different women. So what I was asking these women to do is essentially read through these stories that I had encountered myself and censor and redact them any way that they saw fit. And a lot sparked quite an interesting conversation on what kind of language is censored when we talk about sexual harassment and rape, both publicly and also who are you censoring depending on who your audience is. So some women talked a lot about how they would censor according to a specific person. So some women were like, I'm censoring this for my parents, or I'm censoring this for my religious community, or some people barely censored anything at all. And so what ends up happening is as you walk through the installation, you don't get the full story. You have to really piece together what is happening on the pages and sort of read through the different ways that people censored these to really understand the sort of depth of what's beneath that redaction. The second part to this installation is we have 2 video screens on the side here, and this is where I myself censored my own stories. There's often sort of a looping aspect, and as you sit and listen to the stories, you're going to feel an unease in yourself. The reality is you know that something happened to me, but you are unsure exactly the details. And that is really trying to mimic how trauma feels in your body. is this idea of repetition and abstraction. Then the projector wall, there are two sort of other videos that takes that footage where I'm feeling very uncomfortable talking about these experiences, and I am projecting them on myself in a more meditative state. And really these videos are really offering a space for contemplation on how your body feels throughout the exhibition. The reality is that trauma never leaves your body, but you can start to confront it and accept it within yourself. And part of that is through sort of a meditative state and how to handle the idea of being triggered. And so the two videos that are being projected on the large wall are kind of a reflection on that. So the main thing I'm hoping visitors take away from walking through this exhibition is really a feeling of discomfort. This is not easy work to consume. It's not, just as much as it's quite vulnerable work for me to show. But the reality is these stories do need to be talked about publicly. We do need to process what exactly rape and harassment is, and how do we deal with rape and harassment within our own bodily sensations. And so the viewer is intentionally supposed to feel uncomfortable with what they're witnessing, but also try to question why they feel uncomfortable and sort of figure out their reaction to that uncomfort. I actually have another upcoming solo exhibition at the end of this month, which is also showing this work. And after these two exhibitions, I do feel like I've somewhat put to rest this body of work. What I'm working on right now is I'm focusing on the idea of matrescence, or loss of identity when becoming a mother. And so that has actually made me venture into collage. And so I've done a series of works where I've woven women into different domestic objects and household items. And it all started out of a joke after my first son was born, that I felt like I had melted into the house and could no longer detect who I was. So from that body of work, I've started to create another series of video collages where I'm taking 1950s commercials and cutting them and editing them down into sort of horrific vignettes of motherhood and identity. So that's what I'm currently working on. It still sort of represents a reflection of that idea of repetition, abstraction of found objects or created objects. So I'm continuing on with those sort of themes, but I would say the concept is sort of a new direction.